Welcome to For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales sessions. I'm your host, Steph Pappas, and on this special edition, all our guests share a common pathway that TAFE New South Wales have supported their dreams. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people of Eora Nation. We pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales session, where we showcase creative souls who are doing what they love for the love of it. And I'm your host, Steph Pappas. On this special edition, all my guests share a common thread that TAFE New South Wales have played a contribution to the pathway of them following their dreams. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Today's guest, Steve Bull, is a distinguished figure in the Australian music industry, renowned bass player for over 3 decades in the iconic Australian rock band Icehouse. The internationally acclaimed band was described as one of the most successful Australian bands of the 80s and 90s when they were inducted into the ARIA Association Hall of Fame. I would say they're still as current as they were, holding that for many, many decades. Beyond his contributions to Icehouse, Steve Bull has also been involved in various other musical projects and collaborations, showcasing his versatility as a musician, as well as in songwriting and music production, making him a world-rounded artist with extensive industry knowledge. His creative journey led him to collaboration with Sony, ATV Music Publishing, where he flourished as a songwriter, with his compositions finding homes in the repertoires of esteemed performers like Daryl Braithwaite and Tina Arena. With over 200 titles registered with APRA, showcases Steve's enduring impact on the Australian music industry. Alongside his musical pursuit, Steve Bull has remained committed to nurturing emerging talents, coordinating music programs for disadvantaged youth and producing albums for up-and-coming artists. Steve has worked for TAFE New South Wales as head teacher in music for over 15 years alongside his career with Icehouse, and now is in the role of Industry Innovation Specialist for the creative industries at TAFE New South Wales. Steve sees training within the creative industries is more critical now than ever, before reflecting the dynamic, evolving nature of these fields. Steve is a true advocate for showing the way of many pathways and how to navigate to pursue your passion to do what you love. Please welcome Steve Bull to For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales session.
Thanks, Steph. That sounds like a lot.
It's been incredible looking over your decades of experience in not just as a bass player, which I think, sometimes we get pocketed so much diversity in what you've done. We are here at TAFE New South Wales, we're in Ultimo. Let's start with full circle, but coming back, we'll go back to the beginning, but let's start with TAFE and your involvement there, TAFE New South Wales.
Well, right now,
yes,
I'm in a mysteriously titled job of Industry Innovation Specialist, but it's a sort of job where I work with industries to bring intel and opportunities back to TAFE. So it's not just music, it's sort of, I've got this kind of portfolio that I need to cover. So that's games and animation and VFX and sound and film and TV and AV. So gather intel, bring it back to TAFE. Some of it's positive, some of it's bits we're missing, some of it's opportunities for students to work with the industry partners, some of it's student competitions. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. It's a pretty interesting job. I was not an expert in any of these areas and I'm still not. So I've had to learn a lot about, I didn't know much about animation or films, or I didn't really have any networks. So I had to kind of, through grace and favours and cold calling and leveraging off other people's contacts inside TAFE and outside of TAFE, get to know them. A lot of it is telling them about TAFE, because there are some segments of the creative industries that don't know a lot about TAFE. They might have gravitated to universities as their first port of call, or they don't look to formal training at all. So that's been really good to kind of go, hey, we do this and we do this and we do it from Wollongong up to, Wollongbar. We just screen a media in Wallenbar, in case you're wondering. So it's cool.
And at the moment in that role, you're really showing them about the movement in the industry, because it is changing from when you started off touring.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so-
Well, everything's changed.
Yes.
Because I'm old. Look, the change in tech, I'm particularly interested in. I've always been sort of fond of that sort of stuff. So just even the move from, needing to hire a recording studio to record to I can do it myself.
Yeah.
But that changes a little bit. It means there's an absolute throng of music out there at the moment. But that's democratised it a bit. So, anyone can do music. So then the job has changed. How do I rise above the noise, as they say? So, here at TAFE, we will teach how to be better at that. But then if you're a musician, you still need to be able to perform. So we'll teach how to get better at that. And then I'll bring in, there's like one of the things that we have been concentrating on in my job is Unreal Engine, which is software that was originally used for games, and now it's used for virtual production, it's used for interior design walkthroughs, and it's taking over the world. So, I'll be coming back to TAFE and going, we really need to be doing more of this.
Educate, yeah.
And then, I go out into the great TAFE network and find out who's doing what. It turns out all our Unreal Engine geniuses all live in Coffs Harbour. So they have delivered courses into animation companies from Coffs Harbour into Sydney. So that's the cool thing about TAFE. It's got this network of really clever people all over the state. And because of, teams and the like, we can pretty much do anything anywhere.
Yeah.
But, person to person is always good too.
Well, I want to go into your story because I was fascinated just looking through it, and I'm going back a bit early here. But
Yeah, you are.
actually looking that you spent some time, you grew up in Melbourne, but then you spent some time over in Indonesia with your father's work. And that piano was actually the first instrument that you were taught classically with your sisters. Do you want to take us back to how this transitioned and tell us about that experience of what gathering your love for music in your experience through Indonesia?
Oh, that was, I don't remember much before that.
Yeah.
So they're my first memories. And this is probably not on there, but we came back, went to an international school, as you tend to do in countries in Asia and other parts of the world. Being able to speak fluent Indonesian and spoke with an American accent because I hung around with a lot of American kids. So we could do that. There's some audio somewhere of my sisters and I singing Indonesian songs in perfect dialect, because that's what kids do. They don't think about it too much. So that's that bit. So I've got that little bit of those sorts of songs in my head. And, of course, my dad practising the piano every night.
Because he was an exceptional piano player as well.
He's 95, but he still plays. We were chatting last night. I was asking him if he'd practiced this week, and he said he hadn't, and he felt a bit bad about that because he's still kind of going pretty well. So that was the sound of going to bed, was listening to the radio in one ear and listening to my dad practice in the other. So that was the sort of groundwork, and we're all made to learn the piano because that's what musical parents do. They make you go and learn the piano. So we did.
Because you share, like, it wasn't like it's something you were pursuing music. It was like you were told to learn piano, but you still were listening to pop music as well as learning the classical. Yeah.
Oh, but that's quite common. I mean, I think it's quite common with parents now. You try and keep your kids busy.
I've definitely done it with my children. You've had to learn an instrument.
Yeah, and I did it with my kids, and they sort of got into it. But they were good at art, as it turns out. And I think, oddly enough, it wasn't until I was given permission to stop learning the piano.
Yes.
And they said, try the trombone, so I did that. And that didn't really work out. And then I was mates with a few people at school and said, let's form a band. And they went, well, we play guitar already, so you better learn bass. And that was that. And I sort of took to it.
That was about 15, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, 14, 15 or something. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I don't remember. But the piano really helped.
Yeah.
And I remember my bass teacher, he shot some sheet music in front of me and I could play it early on, and he was sort of semi-amazed, and he shouldn't have been, because If you learn the piano, it's such a great grounding. Same with learning guitar. It gives you a perspective. And I sang in a boys' choir too when I was young. And that also gave me a really good sense of harmony.
And harmony, yeah.
Of going, oh, that's how that all fits. So that's like this and that's like that. Like it's all lines that fit together really nicely. So between all of those things and picking up the bass, I was hooked.
Because I read that there's a point where you were starting to tour at quite a young age, and there was one particular tour when you got back and you were like, this is what I want to do. I think you were year 10 or something, and you shared going up the coast.
We did. It was looking back, it was so dodgy.
Yeah.
But I joined a band who weren't from school, so they were just through a local music shop, advertised for a bass player, and my guitar teacher my bass teacher saw it and said, you should do this. So I showed up and I got the gig, and then they had to come to my house and convince my parents that it wasn't dodgy.
Wow, okay.
So they did that bit well, because it was. I think they ran out of money after 2 weeks. Got a grant to take 2 bands up the coast. Now, the band I joined had already done one out to the middle of nowhere in New South Wales, so we went up the coast over like 2.5 weeks. We ended up having to convince the Beach Hotel in Byron Bay, which is quite famous now, but at the time they didn't have bands, to give us $50 so we could get petrol to get back home again. I don't think I told my parents this until years later. I've been horrified. But that, I kind of went, oh yeah, this is great. And looking back, it's not an experience that a lot of 16-year-olds get anymore, because the landscape's changed so much. And that's why I kind of really big on TAFE students getting as much playing as they can.
And touring experience.
Oh, just play. Yeah. Just play as much as you can for whatever.
Yeah, getting that experience of gigs, because you had a lot of experience in gigs, and then you went back and you studied at Sydney University.
Oh, that was straight out of school, because my
dad
went,
parents.
If you're going to pursue this crazy thing, then you need to kind of get something to fall back on. So, you will eventually fall back on things if you make something to fall back on. But that wasn't till years later.
Do you want to share the mentor that you had there that really helped?
Oh, look, the truth is I applied for 2 courses. I applied for the jazz course at the Con, which was the only remotely kind of contemporary music thing you could do back then in the 80s. Mm-hmm. There was no Australian Institute of Music. There was no music at TAFE. There was, I think, maybe a little bit up Southern Cross, and I wasn't going to move to Lismore. So I believe I came third. They only took 2 bass players for all of Australia, so that wasn't too bad. And then I got into composition at Sydney Uni, because that was the other thing I kind of did during the HSC. And that was sort of a pivotal little sliding door moment. And it was tough, because they were a bunch of classical heads and I was a pop head, and I was a fish out of water. And then in the second year, Peter Sculthorpe, kind of the famous Australian composer, took over. We had a composition class, then we had one-on-ones. And he could see I was struggling, and then he played me some stuff and he went, I think this is for you. And it was sort of Steve Reich, that whole Philip Glass minimal stuff. And I went, oh yeah, I get this. And that was a lesson in teaching too, that he didn't kind of
push you in a...
No, he didn't get all technical about it and say you need to do this exercise and that exercise. He just went, okay, I can see what you need right now.
Yes.
And said, have a listen to this. And that was really good. I've always remembered that, because it was that's teaching at its best. And of course, we would move on to technical things, and he would talk about, how to maybe improve your composition and do all that. And we'd listen to stuff and he'd give feedback and go, all that sort of stuff that you do. But it was just that simple thing of going, this is what this person needs.
Yes.
That was great. No, he was amazing, and I did a little bit of work for him after uni, just sort of arranging some of his stuff, because he kind of liked my particular angle on things at the time. That was great. But then I sort of started touring, and then, you move on to other things. Yeah.
It was only, if I got it right, 3 days after finishing that course that an experience of another pathway sort of opened up for you.
Yep, I auditioned for Icehouse. This was just before Man of Colours.
Yep.
Which obviously went on to do really well. So I came second, I was told.
I love this story. And it's just a great example for students out there following the pathway.
But I was a fan, so that's why I was so keen to join.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like another gig, because I wasn't kind of...
Did you
I was fresh out of uni.
Sorry? Did you believe you could get it at that point, or was it more an experience? Yeah.
Oh, look, I don't know what I was thinking. I just wanted at least an opportunity to audition. I'd known the drummer for years. Because the drum... Paul Wheeler.
Paul Wheeler, yes.
So he got into that band really young.
Yes.
I did a musical with him. I walked into this school musical at James Roos or something. And there's this kid at 17 and he was already spectacularly good. And I just went, oh, holy cow. So we did a few things and then he got the gig. And no, of course it was disappointing. But then you kind of go, well, that's that.
Yeah.
And then I joined some other... either the manager or Ivor recommended me to a few other things after that. Yes. So that was nice. And then I was in a band, we did some supports with Icehouse.
Yep.
Then I ended up playing with another band and Ivor was producing it. So we kind of rekindled some sort of relationship there. And then I was just about 94, I got a phone call saying, do you want to come and do a gig?
Tell us about that gig, because it sounded extraordinary.
Well, the very first gig was a charity gig.
Yes. Up
in Brisbane. And the old people in the audience would remember. Tina was on that, Tina Arena. And, what was his name? He's dead now. Most people I know think I'm crazy, that guy. And a few other people. So we just played 3 songs. Billy Thorpe.
Yeah.
And so it was 3 songs. So it was a nice introduction and it was... I think my audition really to see how I'd go, because it's dealing with pressure at that level. I mean, it's dealing with pressure all the time, but it's different. I mean, I still play a lot of gigs not like that, which is we can get to later if you want. But that went all right, and then the next kind of major thing was Berlin with Sydney Dance Company. That was fantastic. So
to jump to that level.
Oh, it was great. I mean, look, some of the bands I'd played with, like the mid-90s, I did a tour with Wendy Matthews, who had a #1 album, and then moved on to Jenny Morris, who'd also had #1 album. So I had a kind of little golden period there where I got used to playing on big stages in front of lots of people, but also the expectation that comes with that. And luckily, the invoice that comes with that. I had 2 kids by then, so, I needed to have decent invoices, and that's not being cynical. It's just like, if you're going to make a living, you need to bring some money in. And
that's the beauty of working consistently with a particular artist, is that the tour is set up for the year. Yeah.
But they start and finish. Yep. That's the thing. And so you're not, I think the days of, Icehouse in maybe 1987, 88 would have been someone's job. But those sorts of bands aren't a job anymore. They just...
very different.
They start and finish. I mean, I've got, friends who play in Jimmy Barnes' band and all that sort of stuff, and they'll do a tour and then it stops. And then they'll go and do other things. So you kind of plot your year out, but it's not kind of, no one's on retainers anymore. They used to be a thing.
Well, I think that's where we can share how you've really tapped into so much diversity in the music industry that helps you sustain and be a family man. One of the things... the 1990s, you were signed internationally to Sony ATV Music Publishing. I mean, extraordinary experience. Over 200 titles.
Yep, they're not all great. I'm here to tell you. That came about... I always used to tell students that everything's kind of a path, and you can connect everything back to something else, that you met this person and that person and all went like this. And it's never planned.
Always be nice to everyone along the path.
Always be nice to everyone. Yes. Oh, look, on a side note, I remember we worked with a woman called Anna Christensen who was signed to Sony. And I wrote some songs with her, which was also part of the portfolio that got me a gig, because we really connected as songwriters. And we did a 2-week tour with Hunters and Collectors as the support act. And again, like, you're quite young, you're in your 20s, so you're still learning stuff. And I remember going, they're great every night. Every night they go out there and have a crack.
I've seen them live, but they're spectacular.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah.
But the crew were really good to us. It was the first time I'd met kind of the new breed of crew. And we were very thankful. So thanks for helping us out. Thanks for doing this and that. Said, well, I might work for you one day. So what's the point of being
Beautiful.
an arsehole? Can I say that?
Yeah.
So that was great. And I think that showed a kind of changing of the guard from
Great
your old
attitude,
school,
yeah.
cranky music industry people, both musicians and crew.
I love that you've highlighted that.
Oh, no. You learn a lot of stuff along the way, and that's when you end up at TAFE. 15 years later, you get to go. I'm not telling you this because I'm trying to tell you what to do. It's just this is what people expect now.
Yes.
Anyway, so I was writing with Anna, and then I wrote a song with a friend of mine who was in that band, and that was another thing you used to do. You just go, you want to write a song? Okay, because we're all writing songs. And he went, Daryl Braithwaite's looking for songs. And I went, okay, I've got some stuff. And so I sent him what's basically a bed, which was like the whole piece of music written. He went, oh, that could be good. We just need to make sure the chorus is high because he likes that. Because he listened to his stuff and went, well, what can we do to improve the chances of him? Because he'd had one reasonably successful record. And then we did it and we made a demo and we got the right singer to sing on it who had the same sort of voice. And we sent it in and he loved it and he recorded it. And it was on the same record as The Horses.
There's nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Yes.
And that went to number one.
Number one, yeah.
And that was very heartening. And so all of that, between that and Anna, and I was also in my own band at the time, someone like Sony ATV would go, yeah, this person doesn't look like a risk. Oh, we'll invest some time, because they don't sign 1 million people, they sign a few people. And so that's how that happened. And then
Amazing
I had a delivery commitment of 10 songs a year from that point on for 10 years. When I say 10 songs a year, I used to think of it as 1,000% worth of song a year. So if you submitted a song that you co-wrote, that's only half a song. So it all kind of had to add up. It wasn't a problem. I mean, I was just writing with anyone I could write with. So they would send writers around. That's how I wrote a few songs with Tina. I should point out that they didn't get released, but they were on the demos that got her album contract. So I helped.
Extraordinary woman as well. Yeah.
I remember sitting with her in my dingy little house in Leichhardt and she started to sing and I just went, oh, holy cow. And she was in between careers. She wasn't Tina Ringer we know now. She was like, made a regretful pop album and she was pretty angry at the music industry at that point, probably for good reason. But her control was just gobsmacking. And it was great. We got on really well. And we wrote 3 or 4 songs together and that was a pleasure.
I'm glad we got to acknowledge Tina Arena, supporter of her journey as
well.
well.
I bumped into her a couple of weeks ago at a gig. We had a good old chat and, stuff, you remember this stuff. And so it's nice to see her again.
Because she lives abroad now, doesn't she?
She was just hanging around. I think she was there to watch Bachelor Girl or something who were playing on at the gig. And she watched our set, which was really nice. I saw her grooving away from front of house. I think it was her. Didn't have my glasses on.
Well, I want to bring it back around to the education because I was fascinated. You supported disadvantaged youth, and that was through your wife opening that pathway through a program she was working with.
She was on the front lines in the Cross during the 90s.
Yeah.
It was called The Opposition, which was, don't want to get too sidetracked, but it was a youth crisis centre and over the road was a brothel. And so the brothel quite sort of said, well, you're the opposition, you're trying to help people.
Yeah.
And it was all very good-natured banter. And then one of the guys there said, I've got this little bit of funding to run a short music course. And it was called Disadvantaged Youth, and I have to be careful because how we described the client group changed over the years as sensibilities changed. And that was at, oddly enough, the Wayside Chapel.
I remember,
And we went upstairs and it was just me and a cassette 8-track and a collection of people who had not found life particularly easy. And so we made an album. And then we got a bit more money And so we made another 2, and then eventually they just committed, this is Mission Australia, to making it ongoing, and we do 2 albums a year. And it was great. And its job really wasn't about music, it was about students expressing themselves and the self-esteem building of going, wow, it did this and this is the advantage of CDs because they were tactile. So they walked away with the thing because we'd make a run of 200 CDs or something. And one of the guys I spent a lot of time with there, John Kilby of the Kilby clan, his brother is in the church, Steve Kilby. He's now head teacher of music down in Wollongong, TAFE. So we pretty much did that for years. And he took care of, I did a lot of the mixing and John did a fair bit. We produced all the tracks ourselves. John did all the artwork because he was good at that. It was all very, low rent, doing what we can with what we have. So that was really good. And that saw the slow move over 10 years to mental illness being a bigger issue than homelessness, and that sort of the link between those two. And certainly by the time I left, they were all sitting around discussing what meds they were on, which wasn't a conversation that happened earlier on.
And music can be so healing and so transformative and a way to express.
Yeah.
And move that grief and emotion and trauma through.
Yeah, and anger.
Yes, all the emotions.
There were some, few First Nations kids who did some fairly hard-hitting rap stuff.
Yep.
I certainly saw in the time there that we moved fairly heavily into hip-hop and went in that direction, which was, and we were just there to facilitate. We weren't there to tell them what to write. Yeah. We'd just go, well, what do you want to do? And it was very one-on-one. It's very different to TAFE. So you kind of just go, well, let's write something, and we'd take turns writing with each person. It was mostly about lyrics, but also once the technology changed, you have someone who couldn't play the guitar all that well, but we'd get like a phrase out of them and we'd sample it and we'd use that for the song, and then they go, oh, that's me. So that was, it was, to be honest, it has a shelf life. So I did that for about 10 years. And then you kind of go, it's time for someone to take the helm and, pass the baton to someone.
As well, yeah.
Because, they weren't all happy endings.
Yes.
And, my wife was working at the Youth Crisis Centre at the same time, and that certainly didn't have happy endings all the time. But oddly enough, I was on a phone call yesterday with a woman who is now working at TAFE and has gone on to university, who was in my last Sounds of the Street album. Oh. So she's at TAFE now. So
what
there you go.
Full circle.
Yeah, I went, I know that name.
I love that. Can we say her name? What can we mention?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
her name's Carmody.
Okay.
I think she was a young parent back then and sort of struggling, but...
And beautiful that she's come through, because I want to now take us to... You went on to study at TAFE, and then you went on to study electronic music production at TAFE. What did you study at?
Oh, no, I did a master's at UWS in electronic music. So that was kind of the time my deal with Sony had run out. Yes. And I kind of went, I think I want to do something different from the pop music I'm doing. So I kind of went and did that because it's university. And the truth is, right?
Yeah, tell me.
That I applied for a full-time job at TAFE, having never worked at TAFE before. And I didn't get it. Because, it's difficult to...
I love that we're getting the truth.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how that journey then took you to TAFE, and let's finish off here.
Well, my brother was a head teacher at TAFE in community services up until the last couple of years. And so the ads for TAFE teachers appeared in the Herald in this tiny little public service bit that no musician in the world would read. So my brother went, go and look at the Herald on page 7, there's a job there. And I'd done a little bit. I brought TAFE into Sounds of the Street through the outreach team at Ultimo, because we thought, well, why don't we get, we were chasing funding, so they were able to pay for our teacher costs. So I applied for the job and I didn't get it, but I got called up fairly soon afterwards to do some part-time teaching. And I said, why didn't I get the job? He said, the other 2 guys had masters and PhDs. And I said, that wasn't really a requirement of the gig. He said, no, it wasn't, but it didn't hurt. So I thought, I haven't studied 15 years, so it might be a cool thing to do, just
Okay.
to stretch the brain and stretch the, get a few qual up. So that's why I did that. But it was great to dig in and explore stuff that no one's asking when the chorus is starting, and I can really explore sound design and try a few different things that I may have been more like what I did when I was at uni, when you were just composing for the sake of it. So that was great, and I did that, and then a full-time gig at TAFE about 3 years later. And then I was a full-time teacher for 1 year, and then I got the head teacher gig because the other two left.
Extraordinary.
And then, right through to 2018. So I saw a lot of changes at TAFE in that time, as you can imagine.
I mean, it's been a long time that you've been with TAFE New South
Yeah.
Wales. What is it a common thing that you like to share when you are in the position of teaching? You were head teacher for 15 years. What is something that you really want to share as a message through all your experience? And as we're mentioning all these different pathways, what is something you want to share as if you were mentoring?
Well, there's a few. I mean, you need to engage with the industry you're in.
Yes.
You need to participate. So if you're a musician, go along to gigs. If you're a live production guy, go along to gigs and watch what the front of house person's doing. We had a guy called Tim Ferguson come out and give a talk at TAFE once. He's from Doug Anthony All Stars. And he said, do something every day. And that was a really good advice because it was sort of encapsulated what I'd always thought. Do something every day.
That's related to what you're passionate about and what you love.
Like whatever it is.
Yep.
Like write. If you don't write, make some connections. If you're not connecting, practice. If you're not doing that, and it's the same message. It's like if you're really serious about it, do something every day. So that's kind of one of the main things. Practice what you're doing and make a plan. I think. I tended to teach diploma most of the time and advanced diploma. So it was certainly towards the end, it's like, what are you going to do? And what does your week look like? And so, I guess this reflects in everything we've talked about. It would be, okay, you can teach for a little bit. If you want to have your own band, then do some writing. But if you're going to work 3 days a week, nothing wrong with that, but take advantage of the 4 days you're not working. Don't sleep in. Get up and do something. So I think that's the main thing. When you're at TAFE, whatever behaviours happened at TAFE for students tended to be modelled out once they leave TAFE. So I was a big thing on punctuality. I used to say it all the time. It's like, what time do you call this? And it became a little joke phrase that I used to use. And this isn't supposed to be like a terrible story, but there was this one drummer who was awesome. He was a really great drummer, awesome feel, but he'd always show up late. And I go, man, you can't keep doing this. Like, you'll get found out in industry. So, because it's only TAFE. And he got himself a really great gig and he got fired for being late all the time. Because once there are consequences like, we're paying for this rehearsal room and we've got a gig tomorrow and you show up an hour late, that's an hour rehearsal we don't get.
Yeah.
So we don't care about that. There was another great drummer who struggled to play with the click track. That's really important job as a drummer. We kept hassling him about it, going, you're really great, like you need to nail this. He didn't, got a great gig, got fired because he didn't go home and do the hard work of practicing the click track. So they're just a couple of examples, but the ones who have succeeded have taken that on and gone, oh, right, okay, I need to work really hard. And it's the same old thing everyone will tell you, just be easy to work with, don't be difficult, be enthusiastic, but don't overreach, all those sorts of things. And I hear in the job I've got now, I hear that across all the creative industries, is that it's the person that people hire as much as the skills they've got. That's the really critical bit. They will teach you stuff that you don't know.
It's true, in industry experience.
Yeah. If you come with, you come to TAFE, you get a really good grounding. But, you go somewhere, say if you're a front of house guy and you go and work for a production company, they'll fill the gaps in for what they need.
Absolutely.
But if you're difficult,
And don't show up on time.
Don't show up on time, don't dress properly, sit in your phone, don't ask what you can do, but, look bored, all those sorts of things that might seem obvious, but they're not. So I think that's the good advice. But, and if you don't, nobody's going to make you do this. It's not compulsory. So, if you're going to do it properly. And no is an acceptable answer. That's the other one. If someone asks you to do something, say yes and do it properly, or say no. Don't half do it, because that's so damaging to reputations, half doing things.
I like that, learning to say no.
Yep.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you today, and I'm sure there's so many more stories I would so enjoy to go over with you from your experience in this industry that I love. Did you bring something today that you love?
I did. Shall I get up and get it?
We are on awesome
crew.
crew.
We have crew.
Yeah.
All right.
Acknowledging the crew.
So I have a few of these. I just thought, since you asked to bring something, I got robbed in 2003, and 2002, end of 2002. So they took everything, not everything.
Out of the tour?
No,
your
my house.
Home. Okay.
My house. Seminal moment for my children, of course.
It's a big moment, yeah.
But they took my bass, which is a Music Man, and I had a whole bunch of gigs after Christmas. So I had to go and buy a bass. So I wandered into Timaru Music Centre, and I just picked this.
Venue.
I picked this up off the wall, because I just went, and then I just went, this is fantastic. There's something about it I loved. And that's a bit like that with instruments. Sometimes they're just lumps of wood, but this one has now done a lot of gigs. It's got a bit of damage here and there. I dropped it a few times, but it's loved. If anyone's seen Sting, has been playing the same bass for about 40 years.
Yes.
It's well loved. So I just thought I'd bring this in. I mean, I have others, but this has done Icehouse, it's done gigs, it's played on albums.
It's a Fender.
It's a Fender, and I paid for this with my own money.
I love that.
Icehouse is sponsored by Fender, so we get, we work with them, so I get a few things through that. But I missed the Music Man, but this, I don't know, this was a kind of a turning point when this guy showed up. And we've got our lovely tuner. See the little bit of tech for you? These didn't exist once upon a time. So now there's a little tuner there.
Not when you were trained back
God,
in
no.
the early days.
No, buy a tuner. So, yeah, that's the bass. It doesn't have a name, I'm afraid.
I was going to say, did you name her or him?
No.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so nice sharing conversation with you. Thank you, Steve Bull, for joining us today on For the Love of It, TAFE New South Wales sessions. And you've got some gigs coming up, so where can they follow you to learn about that?
Well, for Icehouse, it's just the Icehouse Facebook page or Instagram
Social
or whatever
media,
it is you watch.
because they've got some gigs coming up. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Gerringong, Mackay, Manly, and somewhere else I forget.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
Give you one space.